Thank you very much for the invitation. This is a great initiative. My name is Felice D'Arco, and I will be speaking um, about your perfect MRI protocol for skull-based image. Let's start from the typical protocol that we use for the brain. I'm showing you here the gauche epilepsy protocol because an epilepsy protocol by definition is an optimized protocol for the best contrast and spatial resolution in the brain parenchyma. However, um, looking outside the brain parenchyma, we will see, so looking at the details, we can see that this area of the scalp is bright, spontaneously bright. These are non-enhanced sequences in both T1 and T2. Why is bright? Because this is subcutaneous fat, and we know that subcutaneous fat is bright in both the main sequences, so T1 and T2, standard T1 and T2. Now, because we are looking at skull base, face, and neck pathology in this lecture, the first concept that you need to know is that the area we are looking at are full of fat, and fat can be a friend of an enemy depending on the sequence and depending on the specific situation. So let me show you some case. This is the first case. There is a patient with a mass in the right orbital region. Look at this mass here. What sequence is that? This is a T2 sequence. Why we know that this is a T2 sequence? Because the globes that are full of water show hyperintensity. So when the water is hyperintense, we are dealing with a T2 sequence. The mass, as most of the tumor, show T2 hyperintense signal, and you can see clearly the difference between the right and the left. But the fat that we expect in the subcutaneous soft tissue of the scalp or the face does not show the hyperintense signal I showed you before. And why is that? Because we get rid of the spontaneous T2 hyperintensity of the fat using a fat saturated sequence that is called STIR. You can see in two coronal and in an axial T2 STIR how well defined is the mass on a background of the saturated fat, which is hypointense. And this is also an ADC map, so a diffusion that is also important, and I will show you in a while why diffusion is important in skull base, face, and head and neck pathologies. Same patient had not only a lesion in the orbital region, but within the brain. This is a STIR, axial T2 STIR, and look why is a STIR, because the scalp is dark, so we don't see the hyperintensity of the fat in the scalp. But when it came to sagittal T1 post-contrast, we did not saturate the fat in this sequence, so this is a standard axial T1 post-contrast. You can see here we will not be able to distinguish between hyperintensity due to the fat and the presence of enhancing lesion in the scalp. Why? Because the signal, the hyperintense signal of the fat overlap with the contrast. So we do have a problem, and the same happened in this other case. This is a child with a leukemia, and we did a T2 STIR that shows some patchy areas of hyperintensity. You see how heterogeneous is the signal here. So this may be leukemic deposit, but then the T1 was done post-contrast without fat saturation, and there is an overlap between the fatty signal and the possible presence of metastatic leukemic deposit. In this case, we were not able to distinguish between the two, but luckily we had a diffusion that showed a lot of small area of hyperintensity. You see this nodule here, nodules in the scalp, because DWI is a fat saturated sequence confirmed on ADC and also in the orbit. You see the difference here. This is the lateral rectus muscle, but see diffusion restriction, absence of diffusion restriction. So we have T1 pre and post contrast, T2 sequences, and diffusion sequences. And I showed you that if we want to see something in the in T2 or in T1 post contrast, we need to get rid of the signal of the fat, and that's very, very, very important. However, the fat signal can be also your friend. When can be a friend? When it comes to T1 pre. Look at this case. These are two coronal T2 stir with this typical hyperintense signal of the mass. This is a vascular malformation. And of course, we can see very well, we can delineate very well the lesion in T2. Why? Because this is a T2 stir and we got rid of the signal of the fat. But when it comes to T1 pre-contrast, so we don't give contrast, most of the tumor, the mass, the infection will be hypo-intense in T1. So in this case, the spontaneous hyperintense signal that we see in T1 can be helpful because we use T1 as a passive contrast to delineate the lesion. So the bottom line is that when it comes to head and neck and scalp lesion and scalp-based lesion, we need to get rid of the signal of the fat in T2 and T1 post-contrast. In T1 pre-contrast, we can leave the normal signal of fat, so normal hyperintensity, because this will be useful as passive contrast. So T1 pre, we use T1 bright signal of the fat as a passive contrast. When we give contrast, of course, we are dealing with a T1 post-contrast, we get rid of the fat. And you can see how actually in these two lesions, we have the tumor infection will enhance. Here, this is a vascular malformation, this is a tumor. They will enhance, and because they will enhance, we don't want the enhancement to overlap with the fatty signal. So T1 post, we need suppressed fat signal. And let me show you, this is a post-contrast T1 fat saturated. You can see how well delineated is the mass, diffusion restriction of the mass. This is a rhabdomyosarcoma. We also have a PET, but the T2 we didn't do a steer. This is a normal T2, and look, the bright signal of the fat in the scalp base, in the soft tissue of the face and the scalp overlap with the signal of the mass. So in this case, this was a mistake. We had to do a T2 stir. So remember, when we are dealing with head and neck problems and scalp-based problems, we need T2 stir, so with fat saturation, normal T1 because we use the fat signal as a passive contrast, and post-contrast T1 fat saturated. This works not only with tumor but also with cysts that are full of water. So you can see T2 stir, T1 fat sat post-contrast. You can see a bit of rim of contrast here, but also the soft tissue allow us to delineate the external part of the lesion in the T1 pre. And in case of inflammation, this is an abscess on CT that is confirmed of MR post-contrast T1 fat saturated. Why is so important? Because everything bright here represents inflammation. There is no overlap with the fat around that has been suppressed. Multicystic lesion, this is a lymphangioma with some blood, and same thing, T2 fat saturated, also in coronal, and T1 pre not fat saturated. This hypointensity of the mass is well delineated and separated with the not suppressed fat. This is another example of microcystic lymphatic malformation, with this microcyst very well evident in the soft tissue, in subcutaneous soft tissue of this stir, because we have a stir, so fat saturated T2 sequence. So a lot of examples saying the same things. This is just a definition of lymphatic malformation. It can be micro and microcystic. And look, when we are dealing with tumor. This is a neonate with a large tumor that has two characteristics. T2 with stir delineate the multicystic appearance of this tumor. So this tumor has a lot of cysts full of water. We we do not have a signal of the fat, so we can, because this is a stir sequence, so we clearly delineate the margin of the lesion. When we do the T1 pre, we leave the signal of the fat as it is, so we don't apply fat saturation, as I said, and this allows not only to define the hyperintensity of the soft tissue from the mass, but also to pick up small areas of fatty intensity in the lesion, which is basically the hallmark of a teratoma. We did the post contrast. In this case, we did a mistake, so I show you also some mistakes, and we left the fat on, and so we didn't do a post contrast fat saturated images, and this makes a bit more difficult to distinguish the limit of the enhancing tumor from the subcutaneous fat. So remember, you need to add fat saturated post contrast T1 every time. A teratoma is mixed cystic solid and can have fat and calcium, and T1 pre is very useful to pick up areas of fat into the lesion. Finally, the use of the diffusion is helpful not only in tumors, as I showed you before, but also in cholesteatoma. Cholesteatoma, which is an inflammation of the ear, that can be very difficult to distinguish from fluid in the middle ear in the mastoid, but in diffusion it shows striking restriction. The only problem is that here there is a lot of air and there can be consequently a lot of artifacts, so you need to remember when you use diffusion in the petrous bone, you need non-epi planar diffusion in coronal plane to reduce the artifact. So, what are the proposed protocol for pediatric head and neck and skull base pathologies? We do a normal axial T1 because we need the normal signal of the fat, of the subcutaneous fat, and the fat of the soft tissue of the head and neck region as a passive contrast that surrounds the lesion that will be hypo-intense in T1. Axial and coronal, we need T2, we need to apply stir or other technique to fat saturate, to have a fat saturation. We need axial DWI, but remember, if you are looking for cholesteatoma, coronal non-epiplanar DWI is the optimum because we reduce the artifact. And post-contra axial and coronal with fat saturation. Why? Because inflammation in tumors will enhance, so we need to get rid of the hyperintense signal of the fat in order to see clearly the limit of the enhancement. Thank you very much. This is the end of my lecture, and thank you again for the invitation.